Good morning. You're listening to FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. I'm in Salt Lake City at the Carpet One show, and I'm with Charlie Dilks, the Chief Product Officer. Charlie, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
You know, when you start looking at a product officer, they're the buyer, they're the person who makes the decisions around not only what to buy, but what price points to buy, where to get it, where to source it. They need to stay abreast of all the options out there. They need to know what the consumer's tastes are and what their buying preferences are going to be. And it's a big numbers game, too, because you've got to track what's going on in the business. If there's one person in the United States that's probably responsible for more buying decisions, it's Charlie Dilks.
If you say so. Look, my role at CCA is we serve a number of different divisions. We've got a team of buyers, and then each division has a merchandise staff. So there's a lot of pieces to the execution. I guess I could say that I coordinate a lot of it. There's obviously a lot of strategies when your purchase volume is as high as CCA when it comes to vendors and product trends. I spend a lot of my time doing that, but we've got a very talented group that support all those efforts.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you're also modest. And you've been in the flooring business since college, most of your career?
Yeah, right out of school. I'm a Canadian, and I still live in Canada for part of the year, but I was in the retail business for many years with a company called Factory Carpet, and we were purchased by Color Tile in 1990 and then joined CCA just over 20 years ago.
I do want to talk about the share shift in the different product categories over the last couple of years because it's been more drastic than we've seen in the past. I'm working on the 25th anniversary of Floor Focus this month, and I'm looking back in 1992, carpet was roughly 70% of what was sold, and now it's below 40%. So let's talk about carpet first. You were talking from the stage earlier today, and you were commenting that within the CCA organization, your carpet numbers, which have been a little bit more elevated than the markets, are also now looking to be closer to what the market is. So what do you think's driving that decline?
Well, I wish I knew specifically, and I think a lot of the vendors that we do business with wish they knew specifically. There's obviously a preference for hard surface. It doesn't matter where you look, whether it be online, social media, any of the HGTV shows that you watch. People like natural finishes on their floors. Anything that looks like wood today, whether it's LVT, ceramic, even sheet vinyl, is sort of the preferred product. I said this from the stage this morning. The thing that's frustrating about all that is that carpets never look better, in my view, from an innovation point of view. It's never performed better. Stain resistance, all the attributes that consumers are looking for, but for some reason consumers just aren't buying as much of it as they used to. Now, for sure, there's more choice in flooring than, if you go back 15, 20 years ago, you're basically, there was very little wood flooring being sold in the retail environment at least, and your choice was carpet or sheet vinyl, and so carpet was the product of choice for most rooms in the home. But we're doing a little bit of research trying to figure out why in collaboration with some of our vendors, because I think people speculate as to why carpet isn't selling as much, but no one really knows specifically why and how to address it with the consumer. So there's maybe something we'll unlock through that research that we're doing, and it's with consumers, so hopefully we'll learn something.
Most people realize that if you're a retailer, the profitability of selling carpet is better than any other category, wouldn't you say?
It is. I think that we're in a consolidated category. Obviously, I think there's a lot more price discipline in the channel. It's easier for us to do the things that we do well around private labeling, and which affords our members higher than average margins in that category. But you have to learn to adapt and use those principles in other categories, and we're doing that.
Now, one last question about carpet. We've seen in the last few years a little bit of energy come back 4 or 5 years ago when we went ultra soft. And you get to see all these numbers. Is ultra soft? There's something in the middle. Where's the volume there when you start talking about carpet?
Look, I think if it's a cut pile carpet that someone wants to put in a bedroom, for example, in their home, the softer the better. And I think Mohawk has proven that with silk that's just coming into the market that was introduced last January. I think in other areas of the home, it really depends on the construction. It's hard for soft to be a benefit if it's a low pile product that may go in a family room or on stairs and hallways and things like that. I think the consumer has spoken and they like soft product. There's no doubt about it.
All right. Well, let's talk about hard surface. You said from the stage today that your sales growth levels in hard surface matches the industry. So if we look at the three fastest growing category in order with you, and also I think with the business, it's LVT and ceramic tile and then hardwood, right?
That would be correct, yes.
And with LVT, a product that in the last 2 years has seen 40% growth, why do you think that product has taken off like it has?
Well, I think, first of all, the product looks gorgeous. I mean, if you go on our convention floor in the feature area and a lot of our vendor booths, I mean, these days you don't know really what you're walking on and almost have to lean over and scrape your nails on it to figure out. So I think with the registered and embossed technology that's out there, the visuals that can be produced through this digital photography that exists now that didn't exist just a few years ago, the visuals are great. Obviously, people want to put wood or wood looks in a lot of different areas of their home, and wood's not necessarily the best product for them to put in that area. And LVT is a good alternative, and it's very durable. It's waterproof. It just seems to be appealing to a wide range of eye wants that the consumer has today.
Is the price point a factor, you think?
I think that you can get a look that you necessarily couldn't get in that price point in real wood. But I mean, let's face it, I go to Home Depot or I go to some of our other competitors, I see wood being sold for $2.50 a square foot, and we're selling LVT at that price and well above that price depending on the product and the structure. So I think price is part of it, but the visuals and I think the durability and the practicalness of the product is playing a role in the growth as well.
All right, so when we look at the subcategory, you just mentioned the word structure, and we look at this WPC subcategory of LVT, we've talked about whether it be WPC or rigid core, and you have to be looking at all that since you're on the cutting edge of making some decisions. Where do you think that's going to shake out?
Well, look, I think WPC is here to stay. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's a lot vested in that category, and the consumer, in my view, buys on a quantitative basis a lot of times. So a thicker product, they can identify with or value differently than, say, a flex product, as we call it, which was the original structure. But there's a lot of WPC out there. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I think there'll be pressure on that structure, let's say, as rigid core becomes more popular and more capacity comes online. But right now, more than half of our business is WPC structure.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think you've stated from the stage today, which I think is real important, is that WPC feels like a meaty, beefy product. Mm-hmm. And so when the consumer picks it up, they think they're really getting a substantial type of floor, don't they?
Well, and they are. I mean, I think that there's some advantages in terms of floor prep. I think depending on whose product it is, there's an acoustical back on it, so that reduces some of the surface noise that you would otherwise get. But I do think the consumer thinks that way, and I think salespeople think that way as well. So it's just an easier product to sell.
All right, let's move to ceramic tile real quick. There's not a whole lot new to talk about there. Digital has been a key feature that's given it realistic looks, and the product that's selling now is the wood look, right?
Absolutely. I was saying to somebody earlier today that I saw a product that Deltile has down on our floor that just never seen that good of a replica of wood in ceramic, and it's a 4-foot long plank and 12 inches wide. So the sizes are getting a little bit bigger, which then makes it look more realistic relative to the to the real product. But you don't know what you're standing on when it's ceramic now as well, whether it's stone or slate or wood. And the consumer's wanting that. They're responding because they're buying it. It's great what we're seeing. I'm glad to see it.
Yeah. So let's move to wood. You said from the stage this morning that continuing to see more shift toward engineered, still growing faster than the market. So where do you think that's going to head?
Well, as I said from stage, I mean, wider widths and longer lengths are, what we're seeing a lot of, and the consumer's responding by buying them. So the scale, that size of planks is difficult to replicate in solid wood flooring. There are some out there that do, but, cost obviously is an advantage on the engineered side, and I just think some of the different species that you can adapt as well. We're seeing that part of the market, grow pretty quickly. It does allow a retailer to elevate their margins and elevate their average net selling price because that size of board can't be replicated at a lower price point. So that's a good thing, I think, for the retailer.
Are the two hottest species white oak and hickory?
Yeah, I would say, we've got some beautiful walnut. White oak definitely is predominant. Hickory has got, a beautiful grain to it, and it depends how they're actually manufacturing it. We just introduced a new program from Shaw with a slice face, which is just beautiful. And but there's a lot of variety of species today versus just a short period of time ago as well.
All right, we're about to run out of time. Just want to go through one quick thing. One of the things I mentioned a minute ago is not only do you pick product, but you also pick where you buy the product. And on the supply side, when you start thinking about the news this year of royalty, about $80 million in carpet, Beaulieu, they're still around. They're Chapter 11, $200 million or so in residential sales of carpet. So where do you think all this shakes out from the number of suppliers that we have and the health of the suppliers?
Well, I think in carpet, as the category shrinks, there's no doubt that there's going to be pressure on the supply base, and that we've got, to some degree, there's some overcapacity. We didn't do any business with royalty, so although we don't like to see any vendor go out of business, but again, we just didn't do business with them. Beaulieu's been a long-time partner and supplier to the co-op back to the first days of Carpet One starting, and so we're very supportive of what they're going through. We're confident they're going to get through it, and I know our members want to see them survive.
One last question, Charlie. As we think of the whole brick and mortar retail and how the consumer buys product, do you feel good about the role the independent retailer plays in the whole mix?
I do. I think that there's a level of service that's always going to be required, some categories more than others. I think that we, like a lot of our competitors, I'm sure, are looking at what our online strategy should be. How do we leverage our storefronts, which is a competitive advantage that we have? But that space, it seems to be evolving slowly. That's not to say that that pace won't pick up. We're trying some different things. We're watching what others are doing. But I think there'll always be a place for the brick and mortar retailer. I think the question is how many will there be? But we feel confident that the members that we have in all of our various groups are the best that are out there, and they're most likely to survive.
All right, Charlie, it's great to talk to you. Again, been talking to Charlie Dilks, the Chief Product Officer at CCA Global, and you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.